Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
I'm hoping LaVelle will do most of the talking today. My throat is on injured reserve. I'll be back soon. This is Chin Music. This is our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. He's LaVelle Neal III from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. I'm Jim Souhan, also from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any show at our network, please subscribe is the word I'm looking for, to your favorite podcast app. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. We're presented to you by OnX Maps. And LaVelle, our guy Roy isn't with us. We won't say why he isn't with us, but he's having a good time. Roy isn't with us, and it's a shame, isn't it?
It is a shame, because Roy would have been front and center of this episode, because we talked to him about his feelings about 44 years ago, because today, the day we're taping, which is April 10th, is the 44th anniversary of the day that Roy Smalley was traded by Calvin Griffith to the Yankees for basically Ron Davis, but they also threw in an A-ball shortstop named Greg Gagne, who kind of worked out for the Twins.
Yeah. Well, they got, yeah.
But at the time, our Sid Hartman was writing about how the Yankees don't think Gagne's much of a prospect. Gagne ended up playing for a World Series winning team. But Smalley was making $600,000, and Davis is only making $300,000 plus. George Steinbrenner, who didn't like Calvin, sent the Twins $400,000. So Calvin picked up $700,000 by moving Roy Smalley.
Wow!
And we all know that it was all about the bottom line for Calvin. It infuriated the team. I would imagine Roy had to be a little perturbed as well, because reading some of the coverage, he had just decided the day before to build a house here in town and called the architect to get it going. And then the next day he's traded to the Yankees.
Wow.
His wife had not been to the ballpark all year. She happened to be at the ballpark that day. So it had to be a rough day for Smalley's. Let's see here.
Well, I'll also say this. We're going to get to Taj Bradley and the young pitching and the 4-game winning streak and all that stuff. We'll take on Friday morning. But there's some history wrapped up in here. Gagne was their shortstop for both of the championship teams, 87-91. And when they let him go to sign Dave Winfield in 93, that's when their 8-year losing streak began. Greg Gagne was absolutely vital for this team.
Yeah, and the opening paragraph in Gary Littman's story was, shortstop Roy Smalley, the only Twin resembling a power hitter, was traded to the New York Yankees Saturday for Ron Davis and 2 minor leaguers in cash.
The other story, go ahead.
And Pete Redfern was like, I got comments, but you can't print them. That's all I've got to say. But the players loved Roy. He was a team leader. He was classy. Him and Lott had a clubhouse. And you can tell by these comments it meant a lot. So Roy would actually have some interesting thoughts. Maybe we should ask Roy about this next week anyway.
We will.
To get his recollections of that day. But yeah, that was right when Calvin was pissing off everybody by trading away players like Butch Weiniger and Smalley and saving money.
This doesn't sound familiar at all.
No. But out of this mess, out of the smoke, out of the residue of this, they started building a team, by 1985 that was going to be the core of the 87 team.
One more memory out of this. I remember older players telling me that Ron Davis thing was that he always wanted to be able to brush off defeats, right? But it got to a ridiculous level. It got to a point where he was singing Jimmy Crack Corn and I Don't Care after he blew a lead in the 9th inning by giving up a 3-run homer. And so when they finally got rid of Ron Davis, Kirby Puckett stood up on the bus and sang Jimmy Crack Corn, I Don't Care that he's gone.
Wow, that's something else. What didn't Ron Davis used to cry after blowing saves? Though he kind of went on both ends.
He
of
did
the
both. I
spectrum
didn't
there.
see. He was so emotional.
Yeah.
He either was like distraught or I think he was so distraught he had to find another mechanism for dealing with it, and that's when he started singing that stupid song. I have nothing against Ron Davis, but that's just what I've been told many times that not the most popular teammate. All right, let's get on to
like to hunt. He was out.
What is that? Yeah, he was a hunter.
I just say he was outdoors, but he liked to hunt and fish. And I think our Dennis Anderson actually did a column going out fishing with Ron Davis.
Yes,
back in the day for Star.
Yeah, Dennis does that stuff a lot. Let's get to current events. Taj Bradley looked great. Mick Abel looked great. The whole team took better at bats. Josh Bell looked great. Lee gets a big hit. Buxton looks comfortable in the leadoff spot. Listen, we don't have to try to extrapolate and figure out where this team is going or anything like that. But you couldn't have had a better 4-game stretch if you're trying to find some hope for the future with this team.
No, you couldn't. And there were a lot of good signs there. Mick Abel, actually, the first 2 innings, he needed 43 pitches to get through the first 2 innings of the game. And Pete Mackey pulled him aside after that second inning and jumped him a little bit and challenged him and said, look, your stuff is good. Your arm is live. Would you please show it? And he went out there and threw strikes with more conviction. It was more economical and was able to last through 6 innings. I actually thought he had been taken out with 2 outs in the 6th. But because Shelty was coming out of the dugout, but Shelty's done this a few times this year where he has gone out to the mound to talk to pitchers and decide to lead a pitcher in. So it worked with Mick. He got the final out to qualify for the quality start, and 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He's got a curve and a knuckle curve, and a changeup and a slider. So he's got a lot of pitches to throw. And you can see the talent, man. So that was really encouraging. And as I pointed out in the story in today's paper, they've had a nice run through the rotation. The last 5 starters, they have posted a 1.82 ERA, and Taj Bradley's 10 strikeout outings at the top of that list. He's got, when I was watching that, I almost went on social media, I almost posted that Taj Bradley is going to throw a no-hitter sooner than later.
Woo!
Because there's going to be a day when all that live stuff is going to be under the command and he's going to be unhittable. Because that splitter he throws to go with that fastball and his other stuff, that stuff is nasty. It's filthy. And we've read about how he's had to tinker with the command of his splitter and work with different grips, and maybe he's found something that's clicked for him. He's already got some experience at starting in the majors, but he's that guy who could take the mound with his live ass stuff and have 9 innings of brilliance. That's what I saw when I saw Taj in his last outing.
Of course, I love what I've seen. Velocity, ability to ramp up velocity in tough situations, breaking pitches that play off the fastball, composure. He's athletic. He's strong. He looks like the kind of guy who can pitch without getting hurt. I hope that's not a jinx. Why is it clicking now? What is there a pitch sequence or a grip or a mentality that has enabled him to do this? Because we didn't see this last year.
No, but I think an off season and coming to spring training with a new organization probably is giving him another outlook, another set of eyes on his repertoire. Suggestions from Pete Mackey and how to utilize it. And as I pointed out, he has been working with different grips on that split finger pitch to be able to command it better. He definitely looks like he's commanding it better. So, and plus, he's had some starts in the majors already. I don't know if he's up to that 50 start plateau yet, but he may be getting close to there. And it's about time for things to start to fall in place for him, where he's got enough experience and has tinkered with enough pitches and stuff and sequencing to where he can go out in the mound and feel confident that he could compete. And I think we're just seeing that progression before our eyes.
Yes, no doubt about it. So Abel showed something on Thursday. Bradley looks fantastic. Who's the next? And Simeon Richardson's been solid. Who's the next young guy who might come up and impress when they need somebody? Who's kind of the top of the pecking order among the rest of the young pitchers?
Well, it's not Zebby right now.
Nope.
Triple A's has some injuries. Andrew Morris has pitched. I saw he had a strong out in the other. Rojas, the lefty, Kendry Rojas. And I was in Fort Myers the day he started, and it was filthy. And he's got an off-speed pitch that Shelty calls a split. Other people call it a changeup. I don't care about names. All I know is that it reminds me of Francisco Liriano's when he throws it over the plate. And he throws 96, 97. So the talent is there. You could see why the Twins coveted him when they traded Varland to the Blue Jays at that fateful trade deadline last July. This kid is left-handed. He's got a lot of ability. And all he has to do is stay in the strike zone a little bit more, and he'll be in the majors. But the start I saw in Fort Myers in person, and then talking to Shelty afterward, you could tell the Twins are high on his potential. In terms of upside, he probably has as much upside as anybody they got pitching in St. Paul right now. And also, we haven't heard the last of David Festa either. He's coming back from a spring training injury, and a lot of people think highly of him as well. I always had Zebby in front of Festa, but right now, if they're both healthy, I think Festa probably has the edge, and he's probably going to be in the mix here. He should be pitching in about a month or so he could be another guy. So we'll see. That's why it's worth watching St. Paul box scores. Because they got so many guys who can impact this team. There's still a couple of position players that I don't know if their future is going to be in the Twins roster. So I keep looking at Gabriel Gonzalez and Emmanuel Rodriguez. So Emo's sick right now. He hasn't played the last 2-3 games because of an illness. And Walker Jacobs is still on the progression part, coming back from his injury, so he's not playing 9 innings every day yet. So we're kind of working through some of that. But Gabe Gonzalez has been hitting well. Alan Roden's been holding his own as well. I still think Roden should be the fourth outfielder here instead of James Outman. But Outman was out of options. You know that. The best players always make teams and one out of options do. So there's a lot of players who the next month's going to be interesting because it'll be about the time someone's going to get banged up, and we're going to start calling St. Paul for players, and we're going to see some of these guys. So May should be a very interesting month.
It's going to be fascinating. I wrote about it this week at the Strip. The only deal they made that just didn't seem to make a lot of sense at the time was Varland, young, affordable, talented reliever who could be a starter or an eighth inning guy, a closer for Rojas and Roden. But if Rojas finds it, then that's going to be, we might end up looking back at this and saying we have to retroactively give Derek Falvey the Executive of the Year award.
Right. Well, the other one too is the Taj Bradley trade because they traded Griffin Jacks.
That one I liked, though. At the time, I liked most of the deals. I didn't like the Varland one, but if you get a really good young starting lefty for a reliever, that's a good deal.
But the thing is, you trade with the Rays at your own risk. The Rays historically have fleeced other teams, and the Twins got a starter for a reliever. Yeah. You would take that trade any day if you're getting a starter with Taj Bradley's repertoire and stuff. And this would make the third time that the Twins have come out in the better end of a trade with the Rays because they sent Jermaine Palacios there for Jake Odorizzi, and Jake actually got named to the All-Star team with the Twins. And then came a half season of Nelson Cruz for Joe Ryan. That's a win for the Twins. And now this Bradley deal could be a third time that they've sat at the trading table with the Rays and come out better for it. It's hard to do it with Tampa Bay.
You're absolutely right. I remember, I was kind of hard on Falvey and Levine when they first got here. The first time I went, okay, I like what they're doing was when they made the Palacios trade for Odorizzi. I thought that was a great move, trading from strength to get pitching, and it worked out pretty well, too.
And I like Jake because Jake was great with the media. When he was upset, he told us he was upset. And then if he was mad, he told us he was mad. When Rocco yanked him early in the Mets, as soon as we were done, he was like, what the hell was Rocco doing there with me? So he was pretty transparent about how he felt about things. So I like covering Jake.
Yeah, and he pitched in a playoff game, it doesn't have to be star caliber player. You have to get value. They got value in that deal, which I liked. Let's get to a couple other Twins topics and our booze and blues here. I want to remind you we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
When something goes wrong at home, Aquarius Home Services makes the solution easy with one call to one team and no hassle to find a different handyman or company for each type of job. Aquarius has experts in heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. That means you get the right expert every time and solutions you can trust. Right now, enjoy $98 off any heating, cooling, plumbing, or electrical repair. Aquarius, one call, problem solved. Earning the right to be recommended. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com.
And we also want to remind you that we're presented to you by Onyx Hunt and Onyx Fish, the Onyx app. Spring is the right time to explore new water. Fish are moving shallow, activity is high, and Onyx Fish helps you identify which lakes have the conditions and species you're targeting, including weather tools to know when to go, not just where. It's planning and a navigation tool, offline maps, turn by turn to the boat ramp, public-private land layers. Onyx has been doing this for hunters for years, and now it's built for anglers. It's only $34.99 for the year, less than a spool of good braid. Download Onyx Fish or Onyx Maps on the App Store, or go to onyxmaps.com/fish and fish smarter this season. So we're going to get to Booze and Blues here in a second. Do you like Buck in the leadoff spot?
Yeah, I don't have any problems with that. One, you get your most dynamic offensive player, the potential to have the most at bats, as many plate appearances as possible over a 9-inning game, which I think is a plus. And plus, Buck looks comfortable up there, and that's what matters. The opposing teams now see Buck in the batter's box to start off a game. We're like, man, anything could happen here. He could hit a home run, he could hit a triple. He could beat out an infield hit and be a threat to steal second. He could hurt a team so many different ways, and to have that type of weapon at the top of your order, one, it sets up things nicely for the rest of the batting order, and two, like I said, it puts Buck in a position to get the most play appearances as possible. It also helps that when Josh Bell's got an OPS over 1,000 right now, and they had trouble getting them out yesterday. Detroit did until that unfortunate drive to left center in which the players collided, and the center fielder spent the night at the hospital here. I don't know how he's doing today. We haven't gotten an update, but people saw him put on a stretcher to be taken out of the stadium to go to the hospital with his left arm in a sling, and he had bitten his mouth or his tongue, so there was blood. It wasn't good. But if Bell's going to perform like that in a 3-hole, and then you got Buck leading off, now you got a semblance of a batting order. You got something that's a little functional. I don't know what to do with Trevor Larnach. I don't want Trevor Larnach in a 2-hole right now, but I don't know who else would be a better suited. Brooks Lee getting that single yesterday was huge for him, given that he's been scuffling and he was fighting it. But I got to see him hit the ball harder. I got to see more line drives and more gap. Show some gap power at least, He's not even doing that. So lineup is still a work in progress, but it was good to see for a series that you've got some guys kind of hitting their way into roles that could benefit Shelton's decision-making going forward.
Well, I thought their at-bats over on Saturday and Sunday were terrible, and then immediately they turned it around and had 4 games of excellent at-bats up and down the lineup, especially Josh Bell, as you said. That was an interesting turnaround. I don't know what to make of that, but that was like an immediate flip of the script.
And that includes back-to-back games against Skubal and Framber Valdez. And now people could say that, Valdez was wild early. I said, no, there's been Twins teams in the past that would not allow pitchers to walk them. And at least these guys, had professional enough at bats to take advantage of his lack of command and get out to a fast lead. So the way they were hitting or not hitting against lefties, you take that any way you can get it. And what they did against Skubal and Valdez probably was encouraging for that clubhouse to see that they could have success, not just against any lefty, but an above-average lefty in Valdez and a Cy Young winner in Skubal. So that could be a plus going forward.
No doubt about it. I thought I would like the ABS system. I do like the ABS system. I didn't anticipate it becoming almost an every pitch weapon for the Twins. They have used it extremely well. They've used it aggressively, and they probably won a couple of games because they called for it in the right situation.
There are stats that show that it's led to runs. Like they're like leading among the leaders in baseball with runs scored because they've won challenges. I was just looking this up because I'm writing a note. I'm actually defending umpires in my Sunday 3-2 pitch because there's been over 350 challenges already this year. Over 350. And so there's a perception out there that these umpires stink. And I'm trying to say, no, they don't stink. Because a lot of these calls there was a call yesterday that was off by less than 1/10 of an inch.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean you're not doing your job, So, but looking at the numbers, the Twins lead the league in challenges. They've got a 52% success ratio. And there's some teams like the Dodgers have only had 9 challenges all year or something like that. The Twins are in the 20s. The Yankees are right behind them. They've used it effectively. And it looks like they've got 2 catchers in Ryan Jeffers and Caratini who have a good idea where the strike zone is. And they've been winning challenges. Yesterday's game, Jim, there are 3 challenges in the first inning.
Mhm.
3. And there was it's my God. And there were 7 for the game. So I didn't think we were ready to see that many challenges. But as I'm pointing out Sunday, that doesn't mean these umpires are bad.
No, and I like the fact they're being aggressive. I like lots of challenges, and I like them getting it right.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they can't just stand there and argue with somebody. So many times you'd see arguments, and then you look at the replay and you go, oh, the guy who's arguing is wrong. Now you have to put yourself on the line. I like that. It also makes me think of Joe Mauer. I think Joe Mauer is the best hitter I've ever seen who did not get the benefit of the doubt for having a great eye from umpires. I think he was too nice. He was too polite. He didn't argue enough. It became easy for umpires to say, okay, it's close enough, and Joe should swing the bat. Joe Mauer made it into the Hall of Fame on taking great at bats. High on-base percentage was his greatest strength. And if he had ABS, he might have gotten on base 20% more, or not 20% more, but maybe 5% more.
But Joe would have been too nice to use a challenge, though.
I
would worry that
he would have used it. He would have used. He's not that nice.
I don't know with Joe. On the other side of that, someone like Morneau would have been patting his head all the time.
Yes.
Every little thing, because he would have been a little more combative that way. But Joe's too nice of a guy, man. I don't know if he would.
Yeah, but
be
doing this isn't insulting to anybody. And if everybody's doing it, I don't think that would have been. I think he would have been fine doing it. I think they would have won some more games, man. He would have been. He had a great eye, and he would take pitches that he knew the strike zone better. And I'm not ripping umpires. I'm just saying Joe Mauer knew the strike zone better than umpires.
Right. And I'm curious, I'm kind of half partially kidding with the Joe thing. But some of the guys who are really patient that we have seen get nailed 3-2 pitches all the time, the Robbie Grossmans and the Edouard Julians. I'm curious if this would have helped them, how much it would have helped these guys, because they always had no problems running counts deep. They took a lot of borderline strikes. They may have been challenging all kinds of pitches, because those 2 guys would take strike 3 so many times on a 3-2 pitch, and I'm like, ABS really would have benefited people like them, those types of hitters.
Yeah, good point. All right, let's go to our Booze and Blues segment. I have something, but I'm going to let you lead off.
Well, there's another concert coming to town, and this time I actually gone online, hit the pre-sale button, and bought tickets, because October 15th, the man who gave you songs like Born with a Broken Heart, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, is playing at Mystic Lake. And I was like, I can't miss this one. Him and his boys are on tour. I've got a couple other albums. I think he's a fabulous player. And when I saw that those tickets were going for sale, I said, I got to get involved in this one. So I'm going October 15th, Mystic Lake. I'll probably make a night of it, probably stay at the hotel, probably lose money in the casino. But Kenny Wayne Shepherd's coming to town, folks, and he's one of the greats, one of the giants in the industry.
Well, I saw Springsteen last week, and it was phenomenal. Started off with Edwin Starr's War, which he probably hadn't played since like 85. He looks great. 18 people on stage. Tom Morello is one of the great guitarists who ever lived. Nils Lofgren is one of the great guitarists who ever lived. Steve Van Zandt, one of the great figures in music history. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. I also have this one from Davide Rosso, our producer. He said, I'm not sure you saw it. Richie Sambora was reunited with his beloved custom Gibson Explorer about 2 weeks ago. The story goes that this guitar was stolen out of their warehouse in the 80s. Matt's Guitar Shop came across when it was sold to them, sold in quotation marks, to them in recent weeks, and they confirmed it was Richie's Explorer, so they met with him and gave the guitars back. There's video of it. I just can't tell you how many times I've heard the story. There's so many great guitarists have had guitars stolen. John Fogerty, somebody stole his beloved Rickenbacker that he wrote all his hits on. Steve Van Zandt had his favorite Strat stolen. It's sad that happens so often, but it happened a lot.
40 years ago? That's almost a movie.
Yeah.
It's almost a screenplay.
Yeah.
The path, the travels that guitar has gone on since being stolen. Was it just put in a warehouse somewhere? Was it put in someone's garage? Was it sold a couple times on the black market? A story that a guitar can tell.
Well, and the interesting thing is, listen, it's a custom Explorer. Those might cost $5,000-$6,000. Gibsons are expensive, but the real cachet of it is that Richie Sambora played it, but you steal it. You can't go around telling people that you stole Richie Sambora's Explorer. So I really don't get, yes, it's worth $5,000, whatever like that, and used maybe it's worth $4,000 or $3,000, but that's not a big haul. So you'd have to sell it on some kind of black market where you can admit that it's Richie Sambora's, and you have to trust the person you're selling it to. I think I'm not going to go steal guitars. I'd love to go steal a bunch of guitars, but I don't think I'm going to.
No, that just seems a very lucrative job, and it's a lot of risk involved, I would imagine, as well.
Yes, and you're stealing from rich people who can hire a security firm to chase you down if they so choose.
Yeah, and maybe not turn you over to the authorities.
Yeah, right.
Just deal with you on their own.
Yes, and by the way, since I talked about Richie Sambora, saw John Bon Jovi is putting together a group to go out on the road. He's a cool guy, and he's buddies with Springsteen. His tour is basically going to intersect with Springsteen's out on the road. I'm glad to see he's still doing well and touring. Let's get a final thought from LaVelle. Reminder, this is TalkNorth.com. We've got tons of good shows, 3 hockey shows, 3 Vikings shows, John Krasinski on the Timberwolves and basketball, Michael Russo on the Wild, Mark Rosen, Don Mitchell, et cetera, et cetera. We appreciate y'all listening. LaVelle, wrap up the show with a final thought on anything you like.
Anything I like. The one thing I'm nervous about is how much Victor Caratini is playing on an almost daily basis in the Twins lineup. He's not known as an offensive threat, but they need him to be a backup catcher, one. But because Josh Bell's range is not that great at first base, he's been playing a lot of first base. And I think this is going to be, Caratini is going to get overexposed. And this is another lineup hiccup that Derek has to navigate here as the Twins kind of find their footing offensively. I believe the start rotation has come as advertised, even without Pablo Lopez. 5 different relievers have saves. You cannot, and Shelty talked about it yesterday before the game about he's willing to go mix and match. I would imagine most managers would prefer to have a guy they can rely on to close games out in the 9th inning, having not just a 3-man rotation, but a 5-man committee closing games. Eric Orsey in the 9th inning. I mean, this is concerning to me. And the defense. It's not a great defensive team.
It's not a great defense. It's Buxton and a bunch of guys.
Yeah. The pitchers have been as advertised. The starting rotation has been. And you have good starting pitching, kind of covers up deficiencies elsewhere. But some of these other things, like too much Caratini, the defense, and 5 different relievers with saves, there's still some warning signs here with this team.
Yeah. Well, who would you pick to be the closer if they were going to pick one?
I would go with Cole Sands. He's been around the last few years. He's a little bit younger than some of the guys who are just trying to stop Father Time. And he actually 2 years ago, he was really good in his role. He just had to step up and pitch in the 9th inning. They don't have a lot of great options for the 9th inning right now. But I would try Sands, and I would have Rogers set up and Orsey, pitch in the 7th inning, and Acton pitch in the 6th or 7th inning, and maybe in the right situations have Banda close out games.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who's been in high leverage situations with the Dodgers, and I thought that was a great addition by the Twins. So I would say if you got 2 lefties, you need to get out in the 9th inning. I would give Banda a shot to close. But other than that, I would do Cole Sands.
Good stuff, LaVelle. I appreciate it. I'm about to sneeze, so I'm going to. Couldn't
Bless
do it.
you.
I couldn't get past it. Good stuff, LaVelle. Thank you. Hopefully I'll have a voice next time we talk. Enjoy the ballpark, and we will talk to you soon.
Take care.